Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the NBA Front Office Show, Tuesday, December 19th edition. We've got a big return hitting the NBA tonight. That's right. Ja Morant back in action for the Memphis Grizzlies. Will it change their fortunes? We're going to break that down. We're going to take a look at the standings as well. Miles Bridges versus Canada. Somehow this is a thing. Plus, we'll talk about the Celtics trade efforts to try to land some bench help. I'm Trevor Lane. You can find me over on X at Trevor_Lane, over on Instagram and Threads at Trevor Lane NBA. Keith Smith joining me at Keith Smith NBA across platforms. Keith, how you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Yeah, it's great that we got Ja coming back. So we'll talk about that a little bit, where the Grizzlies are at. Yeah, more good news for the Grizzlies that we're going to get into too, which is it's got to be so welcomed for them. They've just been really put through it this year in a lot of ways, even beyond the Ja Morant stuff. If you see me looking over to the side, it's just because I've got the G League Showcase on the TV over here. It's
Nice.
down the road here in Orlando. So I've been talking to a lot of people. It's cold here, like, and not just like Orlando cold, like it was down in like the high 30s this morning.
Ooh.
So like I had like a ton of people in the league landing, and they're like, dude, what the hell? Like, why is it so cold here? Like, why is this is Orlando? Like, I like a couple people were like, I didn't pack a jacket. Like, I thought it'd
Like,
be
what are you doing to me here, man?
and I'm like, I don't know what to say. Like, it's chilly here today and tomorrow. So it's not exactly Chamber of Commerce weather here in Orlando, but well, everybody will make do.
Now, somehow, some way that they'll get by, but unfortunately, you're not giving them that winter reprieve that some of those northern teams were hoping for.
Yep.
All right, let's get into the thick of it. Ja Morant returning to action. We talked all about Kenny Lofton Jr. being waived by the Grizzlies in order to make room for Ja Morant to return.
You think he gets claimed off waivers?
I don't know. He's such a specific fit.
Yeah.
It's so difficult for him to be a fit somewhere. I think he's the kind of guy that somebody brings in to like on a two-way contract or something like that, and wants him bouncing between the G League and up to their regular team. I could see a few teams taking a shot because he's still an interesting player, but I think it's more likely that we see a two-way situation.
Yeah, I'm with you on that too. I think, as odd as it may sound, if this was March, maybe like somebody says, yeah, we'll bring him in for the last month and kind of run out the string. The one challenge is there's only so many roster spots open around the league right now. There's just not very many, as we saw a couple get filled in the last little bit, and a couple that are open are teams like the Lakers, the Heat, the Bulls, the Cavs, who are all trying to in Minnesota, who all have tax concerns. So I do think it is more likely than not that he probably goes unclaimed.
Yeah, I think that's probably what we'll see happen with him. But Ja Morant back, that's going to be a big boost to the Memphis Grizzlies. Are they? Is this going to be enough for them to eventually make a push here? I mean, right now Memphis is sitting. They are the 13th seed in the West, 6-19 on the season. They are
7.5.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a lot.
That's a lot of games. I was looking like, oh my gosh, they're farther back than I thought. 7.5 games back behind the 10th seed Phoenix Suns. And think about that. You have to leapfrog the Jazz. Okay, that's one thing. But you have to get ahead of the Warriors, the Suns, the Rockets have been playing well. One of those teams has got to really falter for you to move up.
Really, two, right? Because you're going to pass.
Yeah, that's true.
And then you need another team to fall out. So yeah, so it's an uphill battle for sure. Ja he's great though. So hopefully he comes out. One, he's coming in just as we're starting to see a lot of teams get nicked up and guys slowing down maybe a little bit. He's just kind of now coming back, right? Where it might be he's going to be fresh legs, full go. I expect tonight we may see him play in the beginning of the game. He might be a little out of control, like he shot out of a cannon.
Yeah.
Sometimes we see that, right? Guys' first game back. But I think he's going to, really inject a bunch of energy into that team. They just need other guys beyond Desmond Bane who can create offense for these guys. Taylor Jenkins said he looks good physically. There's no hard and fast like minutes restriction. My guess is they're probably not going to be like play 40 minutes right out of the gate. But they kind of need him to, because the only other point guard on the roster is Jacob Gilliard, who's a two-way guy, because Derrick Rose is out. He's going to be week to week. I don't think we really got into it the other night, but he's out for a little bit here. Now, the other part of this good news, might as well get into it now, Marcus Smart.
Yeah.
is coming back too, probably by the end of the week. They've got a couple games coming up against the Pacers and Hawks. I believe that's Thursday and Saturday. And Jenkins said somewhere in that window, he'll be back. Smart's been playing 5-on-5. So that's incredibly good news. So you may see the Grizzlies outside of Steven Adams with kind of the lineup they envisioned for the first time this season. With these guys on the floor, you'll have Smart and Bain and Morant and Jaren Jackson, who's obviously played great, and then a couple other guys. But to your question, man, I don't know. 7.5 games is a lot. Like, if they could have gone 2 games better, 3 games better while Morant was out, I'd feel a lot better about them making up the ground. But that's just such a big ask.
Yeah, agreed. It's a lot of ground for them to make up. Now, there is still a good chunk of the season for them to do it, so it's not out of the question, but they do have to really start stringing together wins if they're going to get this done. Ja Morant is a very, very good player, though. And here's, I guess, the biggest thing. Obviously, Grizzlies fans are going to hope that they make the playoffs and all of that, of course. But from an NBA level, I think the biggest thing that needs to happen here is please stay out of trouble, Ja Morant.
Yes.
Let's stay on the floor. He's one of the bright young stars in the league. Stay on the floor. Let's not have anything else come up. Make what happened the rock bottom for Ja Morant, and everything is just on the way up from here.
Yeah, so 100% with you on that one. That is absolutely what we should all be. That's all we really care about, to be quite honest, for the rest of this Grizzlies season, just with where they're at record-wise, is, let's Ja Morant. We never have another issue like this, and this is it. So looking at it, they've got 57 games left. Just to get to 500, they'd have to go 35-22 the rest of the way. Not impossible, right? That's not that's a lot. Crazy, to look at for the kind of team they've been the last couple of years, but that's a lot. That's just to get you back to 500. They could go, if they can go like 37-20, they'll be in the mix, right? So you're basically just now, if I'm Taylor Jenkins, though, it's, hey, let's make up a game a week. That's really all we got to do. Make up a game a week, and then we're going to be back in this thing. That needs to be your focus the rest of the way. Just, that's what we're looking to do. But that doesn't sound that hard, but it's really, really hard to do. So they've really put themselves in a spot here. But to your point, let's just get Ja back. Let's play ball, and let's be a better team. And quite frankly, the nice thing is this is now another more watchable team out of the bad teams, because they've been kind of a tough watch to get through some nights.
For sure. One thing to note right now, 500 wouldn't even be a playoff team, not even a play-in team. 500 would get you to the 11th seed in the West currently. So we'll see what they can do. But again, welcome back, Ja Morant. This is going to make the Grizzlies a much more dangerous team. Marcus Smart coming back as well. We'll get a better sense of what the Grizzlies really have, which I think is going to be important for their organization moving forward. All right, let's jump over to your Celtics, Keith. They are aggressively targeting bench help. I love that, like, every day now we're getting a little bit more and a little bit more about the trade front and what everything's going to look like heading into February 8th, what certain teams are wanting, what teams are asking for, all that sort of stuff. But the Celtics, this is now the second time that we've heard they are looking for help off their bench. Is there a specific position that they're trying to fill, or is this just a quality situation? What's your sense here?
Yeah, it was interesting because that was kind of, this was put out there by Shams, and one of the things that was like, what are they looking for? And it was, they kind of mentioned, another big or a ball handler or a wing, and it's like, oh, okay, so really anything. I kind of think with Boston, that is kind of it right now. They very realistically, they have about 9 guys I think they're fairly comfortable with playing in their rotation. So if any one of them is out, you're kind of a guy short for where you feel like. Now, there's a whole bunch of other teams like the Grizzlies. We just talked about it, like, oh, boo-hoo for you. Like, we're, look at, us crying a river here. But I think what it really is we kind of get into this stuff. It's, and I think it was Shams. It might have been Chandler Parsons, but it was one of the two of them. This was on FanDuel's. Well, I don't know what the show is called. I apologize. I can't remember.
The FanDuel show.
Yeah, whatever it is. Yeah, it's something like that. But it was they said the thing is Boston needs somebody to get them through the next few months, because by the time you get to the playoffs, the rotation will cut down to 7 or 8 guys anyway. So this is not going to be something where very likely they're not going to make a trade where we're going to be like, oh my God, emergency show and
Mm-hmm.
everything. It's more going to be, okay, that's a nice bench pickup for them. And that guy can do X, Y, and Z, and we'll kind of help them. I think a 3-4, more floor-ish type player is probably more what you need. Oddly enough, Grant Williams, right, would be great
Sure.
to have. And I get it. There's Celtics fans who are still bitter because that move was really only about money. But I don't know if you had re-signed him. Do you feel good much later in the summer about saying, all right, let's go ahead and go get Drew Holiday?
Right.
Maybe that doesn't happen. And who knows, right? That's a whole, you could play the what if stories if you want to. But I think it is in a spot where that's probably what they could use, but really just another guy who could step in and give them rotation minutes. But here's the challenge. To get a really good player, they have to, just from salary matching standpoint, part with another really good player because they just don't have tradable salary. Their starting five is what it is. And then their next three guys are Horford, Pritchard, and Hauser. And why I put them in that order is that's kind of the descending order salary wise. But you're talking 10 million, like 6 million, and like 3 million. So that's not getting you much. And they don't want to trade one of those guys because then you're not really fixing your problem. They do have a $6 million trade exception. They could put together 2 or 3 minimum contracts to get a guy. That is possible. So there's ways they can get there, to be sure. The question is just where are they going to go with this? And that's what we'll ultimately see here in month and a half to go before the trade deadline. My guess is they'll do something, but it'll probably be something relatively small.
Yeah, I mean, this falls into the category of it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
Don't try to make some big, huge change to something that largely is working. What you're doing is you are just doing some things on the margins just to give yourself a little bit of a boost. You're not looking to tear anything apart or anything. And certainly, you could, even if you were to add a significant talent at this point, it could prove to be disruptive. You got to be chemistry can be a fickle thing, so you got to be careful, err on the side of caution if you're the Celtics and you're in the position they're in. And if you're going to make a move, it's probably going to be a minor one because I don't think they need a big home run swing, anything like that.
Yeah, absolutely not. Yeah, you do not need to be kind of going all out here to make this kind of major transaction. It just isn't there. Like they don't need it. I mean, I get it. Celtics guy, pumping the Celtics. I fully get people are going to say that. Just go look at the numbers. Their starting five when it's together has been dominant. If you put Al Horford in place of any one of those five guys, they are dominant. So when they go to their top six, they are absolutely rolling through teams. And what they know is they can't get somebody so good that it's like, if we lose 2 of the top 6 guys, we're going to be that good. Yeah. They just need somebody to get them through the last, 55-ish games of the regular season and then kind of go from there. They're on a tough West Coast road trip right now. It's Warriors, Kings, Clippers, Lakers. The Clippers, they actually have both. They've got 2 days off in LA before they play the Clippers on a Sunday afternoon game. That's probably going to be a disaster. We just know how that goes for teams in LA. And then obviously the Lakers on Christmas. Or it's Saturday afternoon game, I should say. Not Sunday for the Clippers, but then they play the Lakers Christmas, and then we'll see where it goes. So this will give us a much better sense. They're 14-0 at home. We'll see how they do in this road stretch here, and then we just kind of move forward from there.
All right, let's jump over to the Rockets, a team that's already kind of putting out a little bit, but they're not expected to be super active at the trade deadline. They're going to be focused instead on internal improvement, and I think that's probably the right spot to be in if you're the Rockets. They've had more success than we would have expected, but they shouldn't feel encumbered to make some big win now. Hey, we're doing a little better than we thought we would have, so let's really go for it. Let's cash in some chips and let's go. That's the way you can derail a young team that's on the way up so quickly by giving up some of your future assets and making a win now move. And if that doesn't work, next thing you know, you don't have those pieces to really sustain something and take you to the next level. So I think the Rockets being a little bit more cautious on the trade front, that is the right approach for them. They're on their way up. There's going to be natural organic growth from within this team. And I think this is the perfect stance for them to take.
Yeah, this team they are what you kind of look for typical profile of a young team and fully get it. They added Fred VanVleet and Dylan Brooks and Jeff Green. So they added some veterans, but still largely a pretty young team. And their profile is they are 11-1 at home and 2-10 on the road. So we often see that young teams are usually much better at home than they are on the road.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is they defend every night. They're really, really good defensively, but their offense is kind of messy. They get to the free throw line only an average amount. They're not a great free throw shooting team when they do get there. Their 3-point shooting is not so great. They're just overall offensively, outside of they really are taking care of the ball, which you and I have talked about a lot. That was already a major win for their offense because they used to throw the ball away, 25 times in a game. Would be like, yeah, that's the Rockets. That's what they do sometimes. Now they're like top 10 in turnover rate. So they're really doing well as far as how they take care of the ball. So I think just don't push it, right? Let this be natural. Now, Jalen Green, he's really going through it, man. He's been bad. There's no real other way to put it. We wanted to see real growth from him. And I think the prevailing wisdom, at least I know they were thinking this was where my head was at. Fred VanVleet will make the game easier on him. He'll get easier shots, better looks with better talent. And he just hasn't cashed in on those. He still makes shots more difficult on himself than they need to be. So I think this is just a lot of got to break those bad habits with him, get him there. Jabari Smith's still wildly inconsistent. So they're good. They're way ahead of where anybody thought they would be. But I think this is the right move for them. Whoa, we don't need to be making the all-in big trade right now. Let's kind of let this year play out. It'll be where it is. Let's try to stay and play meaningful games into March and the beginning part of April. And if we're fighting for a postseason spot, great. And then we'll kind of go forward from there.
Yeah, agreed 100%. This is what they need to do. All right, let's take a peek at the standings and where things are currently, and let's try to figure out what's real and what's not. So I guess here's the Eastern Conference right now. You've got the playoff teams are the Celtics, the Bucks, the Sixers, the Magic, the Knicks, and the Cavs. The play-in is the Heat, the Pacers, the Nets, the Raptors, the Atlanta Hawks, right there tied in terms of games back, and tied in record as well with the Raptors for that 10th seed. And then you have a game behind them. You've got the Chicago Bulls, and then you've got the teams that I think we can say are probably going to be out sooner rather than later. The Hornets, the Wizards, the Pistons. Keith, where do you draw the line in terms of, if we're not just looking at playoffs, if we're looking at contenders, is it another year of just being a top 3 in the East?
For real contenders, yes, I think so. And I'm cautiously not putting Miami in that group, probably to my own detriment once again. And, if anybody from the Heat organization is watching this, I'm sure they'll be like, yep, go ahead. You do that. Right. So I have no problem if we want to put the Heat in that mix too. I think Orlando, New York, Cleveland, they're just not on that level. Philly, one thing I'll say with them, and we always talk about this, you only play the teams that are put in front of you when they're put in front of you, and they are destroying those teams. So all credit to them for doing what they've done. Schedule is about to start to turn for them a little bit, get a little bit more difficult with some more challenging teams. I mean, it felt like for a month, Philly has played Charlotte, Washington, Detroit, Chicago, like teams in that group. They actually lost to Chicago last night. So I think we're in a spot with Philly. I want to see when the schedule gets a little stiffer. What does that look like? But to their credit, not only are they beating those bad teams for the most part, they're killing them. Milwaukee's defense stinks. It's just not very good, but their offense is incredible. And then Boston is, for my money right now, the best, second best, third best, wherever you want to put it. They're in that top tier of teams in the league. So that's a long way of saying, yeah, I think so. Maybe Miami squeezes back in there because let's see how much they care about the regular season. But I think those other teams, Orlando, New York, Cleveland, if you want to put Indiana in there, maybe Brooklyn, they're just not on that level. And then forget everybody below that, because that 10th play-in spot, that last one, somebody's going to stumble into that and wish they had it.
Yeah, like, they're gonna fall backwards into that spot.
Exactly. It's gonna be like, that's not really where we'd rather be, a short of the lottery pick than be, in this mess. But 10 got to go. So somebody's got to be in there.
Yeah, Miami tends to get overlooked, and we did it last year too, because we talked about there being 3 main teams at the top of the East. But still, I mean, I don't know. Like maybe at some point, I was the one who picked against Miami in literally every series, and I wasn't correct until the finals. So maybe this is foolish, but I just don't see them as being on the same level as those top 3 in the East. And again, maybe I'll be proven wrong, and it'll be a really exciting postseason again. But I think it's another year of the Celtics, the Bucks, the Sixers. Which again, we'll find out more about the Sixers. But so far, the Sixers this season have been much more firmly in that group of contenders than we would have predicted last summer.
Yeah, completely agree. Yeah, I mean, all the way up to the start of the season, right? We were, I don't know about Philly. Let's keep them a tier down. It really, and it wasn't just you and I. It was just about everybody. It was like, this is probably like a 2-horse race, right?
Yeah.
And then I think the team a lot of people like that has really not played well is Cleveland. I think a lot of people thought Cleveland would be a little bit higher in this, and they've stumbled now. They've won a couple in a row, which good for them, but they don't have Garland. They don't have Mobley for at least a month. I'm probably talking the beginning part of February before we'll see those 2 guys again. So that's a challenge for them. So now if you're the Cavs, you're fighting. All right, well, we're going to fight the Heat, stay out of it. The Pacers, great in the in-season tournament. They've just been kind of since outside of that. They have not really played well. They don't play any defense, like none at all. The funniest thing I saw today, a media outlet put out, Indiana Pacers, greatest offense on, of all time, blah, 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 blah. And it's like they lost last night by 24 points and gave up 151.
Yeah.
Like, totally fair. Let's give them their credit for props for how good they are offensively, but maybe let's do it tomorrow. Like, we don't need to do it the day after they let up 151 points in regulation and lost. So, yeah. And then the Nets, the Nets are kind of what I think we thought they'd be after the Kevin Durant trade. Last year felt a little off with the Nets because they had already stacked all those wins before they made the trade. So that kind of put them in a better spot record-wise than they were at. And then Orlando, I think they have staying power in the top 6 because they defend. They really do defend. It feels like there's a trade in there if they need to make it. They're, again, kind of that young team profile. They're really good at home. They're, average, a little below average on the road, which is better than being really good and then terrible on the road. So, yeah, I think it's tough. Last thing I'll say with that top 3, this is where it starts to become kind of important, even though we've got still 2/3 of the regular season to go. You got to start thinking about we really want to be the 1 seed,
and not the
then
2
we
and
don't
3.
have to play both Milwaukee and Philly.
Yeah,
because whoever you are out of that 3, you don't want to have to play both the other 2 teams.
You want to get Orlando, New York, maybe
Exactly.
it's Miami. You want somebody like that from the 4 seed. Sure. Yeah, I can definitely see that.
The Heat are like, yes, you want us. Sure. Yep.
Yeah,
Keep telling yourself that, right?
I think, look, I think we both know, we've both been doing this for long enough to know that Orlando is not the kind of team that has playoff success now. Yep. And that's perfectly okay. That's totally fine with where they're at in their development. This is the kind of team that now they get themselves into the mix. Now they're turning heads. People are going to start paying attention to them. They get to the postseason. They probably are going to lose in maybe the first round, maybe it's the second round, something like that, but they're going to get valuable experience. Next year, they're going to be that team that nobody wants to have to deal with. They're going to make a few more improvements and off they go. This is just historically not the year for a team like Orlando to make that big run. And there's nothing wrong with that. So that's why I'm not predicting them to be part of this, even though they've been really, really good this season. They've been one of the more fun stories. This is just typically not the year that type of team makes that true playoff leap. That comes next year, the year after that, somewhere in that range.
Yeah, they're this year's Cavaliers, right? Yeah. Like what the Cavs were a year ago. Like that's what they are. They're playing really, really well. Again, much like the Cavs, built on defense. Their defense keeps them in every single game, and then their offenses have been improved enough to go. And yeah, I'm with you on that, spot on. I think that's perfect analysis for where it is, and we're going to get people who are going to be like, the Magic won 50 games or whatever it will work out to be at the end of the regular season. And we're going to say the exact same thing.
Playoffs are a different animal.
Prove us wrong in the playoffs, right? We will come back here and tell you we were wrong. we are very good and very open to that. But just to your point, we've seen this story before and we go there. Want to take a look at the West?
Let's do it. Okay, the West, as everyone expected, the Minnesota Timberwolves as the 1 seed, the Oklahoma City Thunder as the 2, the Nuggets sitting as the 3, the Kings at the 4, the Mavs at the 5, the Clippers 6, the Pelicans 7, the Lakers 8, Rockets 9, Suns 10, the Warriors somehow are sitting at 11, Utah's at 12, the Grizzlies are at 13, the Blazers and the Spurs, I put Memphis in a different category than the Blazers and the Spurs because when they're healthy, they're a team that can go. This is a damn mess. I mean, there's the East. You go, okay, it's 1, 2, 3, and then maybe the Heat get into the mix. Who the hell knows who's going to come out of the West? I mean, I'm pretty confident Denver is going to be a really difficult team to deal with, especially when they're healthy. Right now, they're sitting in the 3 seed. I don't think they particularly care that much. Minnesota has proven themselves this season. Anthony Edwards is making the leap. Their defense has been great. The Thunder have really stepped forward with Chet Holmgren. He's the rookie of the year at this point.
He is.
He probably is, despite all the hype for Wemby. Sacramento is still, I mean, and then the Clippers maybe over the last 10 games have maybe been playing the best basketball of any team in the league, potentially. I mean, they've been excellent they're on an 8-game winning streak right now. So who knows what's going to happen here? Like, I guess I should just ask you, because I'm just mired in this muck of the Western Conference. Where do you draw the line?
Yeah, I don't want to be disrespectful to the Rockets. I just think they're going to fall out. I think at some point, it may be the end of March before it happens, but I just have a hard time seeing the Warriors not figuring this out and getting there. The Warriors, I've said it over and over, but it's worth repeating. I will be a year too late on the Warriors. Like, I will believe in them until a year past when I probably should have.
Mm-hmm.
So that's it. You switch bump the Suns and Warriors up, Rockets down. That's my group. The order, I don't know. Like, no clue. I feel really confident in Denver as long as they're a top 4 seed. I don't think you want to be 5th and have to go on the road every round in the playoffs, especially with how good of a home team they are and how good that home court advantage is for them. But if they're 2 or 3, fine. I'm not worried about them at all, especially if it sticks to be some of the teams in front of them, like Timberwolves, Thunder, Kings. They're just not necessarily the Nuggets, right? Because the Nuggets are that good, right? As a champion. I was going to say a championship contender, but let's just say as the champions, right?
Yeah, the reigning champs, sure.
They are the reigning champs. So, Minnesota's great. They defend every single night. Best defense in the league for my money. So, right, it's hard to not believe in them. They've got enough offense, and even when their offense gets a little sideways, they defend so well. The Thunder, I feel like this is probably a year early for them to be this good.
Mm-hmm.
But you also could say, but they can go get almost whatever they need.
Yeah.
Right. If they decide it's time to stop messing around with 4 smalls around Chet and get one more real forward in the mix, they could go get it. Right. They could go do that if they want to. Just they have the picks, they have the tradable salaries. They can get there. I put it on Twitter last night after they dropped 151 points and won on the road by 24. I'm there again on the Clippers. I'm ready to get hurt again. I said this on the show yesterday too. I just feel like Ty Lue. Tell me if I'm off on this. I feel like Ty Lue might have been like, I'm done playing with feelings. If your feelings are going to be hurt, you sit on the bench and I don't really care. I'm over it. I'm going to play the guys I think that will win games, and that's going to be how it is. And then he's kind of put guys out there and trust those lineups. Those lineups with Norman Powell in them are so good.
Yeah.
I feel like they need one more big maybe, and they've got some tradable contracts that they could probably go get it if they need. I kind of keep thinking about them. Could they be, if it'd be a little hard to get there contractually, but they'd be a really kind of sneaky, fun John Collins team? Because we know the tax bill, who cares?
They don't care about it. Yeah.
Throw it on top. It doesn't really matter. It would involve Tucker, but Tucker's very easily tradable because they don't really care about the salary, right? And then
if you're the Jazz, about him, he's not happy, and they're like, whatever.
Yep. So then if you're the Jazz, if you get PJ Tucker, either you turn into a 3-teamer and reroute him to another team who wants him, or you just buy him out and waive him and move on and be done. So Pelicans a little harder to believe in. Zion is not looking great in some phases of the game, but when they're healthy, they're tough. The Lakers are going to be there. My one worry with the Lakers, I just feel like it's going to come at some point that AD or LeBron misses 3 weeks.
Yeah.
I'm not hoping for it. It's just history tells us that's going to happen. Do they have enough to get through that when that happens? So.
And the hope is because they've basically had injuries to everyone.
Everybody.
Like everyone else has been injured for the bulk of the season at this point.
Yeah.
The question is, are you going to continue to have everybody else be hurt at the same time?
Yeah.
And then you lose LeBron. Then you're in big trouble.
Yeah.
But you're going to need everybody else healthy if you lose LeBron, if you lose AD. I think honestly, I think they need a trade before the deadline to kind of fix up a few things. But I think they can be right there, and we saw them really turn it up during the in-season tournament. What about Phoenix?
Yeah, Phoenix is hard because you keep kind of saying with Phoenix is, well, I got to see it with their guys all there. But we're a third of the season and we haven't seen it. So at some point, I'm just going to, that's fine. Maybe we will, but I'm not going to count on it. Like, I just don't know because, and we talked about this a couple times too. Booker's missed some time. Beal's missed a lot of time. KD really hasn't. And KD is another guy. We know there's probably going to be something that takes him out for 2 or 3 weeks. And then you're going to be, in some trouble if you're the Suns. It's 1-1A with him and Booker, who's the most irreplaceable guy on that team because Booker does so much for them. But you lose KD, like you don't really have anybody who can do what he does either. So that's, you're going to be in a lot of trouble if you're Phoenix if you lose that. And you're going to have to go to be a very kind of completely different team if you lose KD for a little bit. And I feel like you're probably going to lose KD for a little bit at some point.
Yeah.
Just it's happened every year for the past few years. So, yeah, to go back to the Lakers real quick.
Yeah.
I think, too, I don't want to belabor this point because I know you've talked about it on Lakers Nation and people can go watch it there. But everything is set up for them to have one more big trade in them at some point. Whether that's right now, it's trade deadline, whether that's next summer. But they've got one more big trade in them. They set these contracts up, especially D'Angelo Russell. No one's ever going to come out and admit it, but they probably gave him a little bit of extra money to get him to waive the no trade clause with the idea of, hey, you're going to get more money, but we may need to put you in a trade at some point. And hey, all's fair in love and war, right? You paid me more. So if you want to trade me, sure, go nuts. Jamora's deal is pretty tradable. I mean, if they really had to, they could move Austin Reeves. We know they don't want to, but you could if you needed to get there. Even Gabe Vincent, he's now tradable too, right? That's another contract you could throw in if you're just like, we thought it would work. It's not going to work. There's $10 million of tradable salary. Let's go. So yeah, I'm with you. I don't know what it is. I can tell you, it's not going to be Kyrie Irving like a lot of people thought for a long time because he's played great with Dallas and Dallas has been pretty good. So that's not going to be a thing I'm fairly certain of. So then it starts to be, is Zach LaVine the right guy? Do you hold out and wait till, could you maybe make a move on Donovan Mitchell and try to make something like that happen? The only reason I'm throwing those two guys out there is their names have been mentioned.
Just names that have been around,
But there'll be other guys that make roughly what those two guys make that will become available. And that's the one thing with the Lakers where it could be, all right, we lost LeBron, but we still have a trade we can make. Or we lost AD for a month. We've got a trade we can make. We can go get something done that we didn't think we'd do otherwise. We kind of skipped right past them. The Kings are playing really good.
Yeah, they are.
They're playing really, really good ball. They're kind of back to starting to really pick up the offensive pace again with that. De'Aaron Fox is, he's full-blown superstar now. Like, that's just who he is. Keegan Murray is, shooting the leather off the ball.
Yeah.
So, he's been really, really good. So, yeah, man, this is just, it's maybe not as good of records as we thought necessarily, but the conference is still super deep and super competitive, and it's going to be hard to get through it. But where I can't draw a line with the teams, but where I draw the line, being that top 6, you do not want to be messing around in the play-in.
No.
I get it. I know the Lakers went through it and the Lakers made that run. So did the Heat. We're not going to see that be a thing.
That's not that's an
them
outlier.
making super deep playoff runs. You may make it through and win a round, but you're not winning 2-3 rounds. That's just not going to be a thing. It's just too hard.
If it's going to
Get
happen,
to
it's
the
going to be a situation like the West where there's a lot of parity, where it's very, very close. But even so, you wouldn't bet on that happening in consecutive years. Also, I thought, the Lakers kind of ran out of gas last year. Part of that was probably having to go through the play. Like there's something to that too. So yeah, you definitely don't want to be, you want to be in the top 6.
Of
3 months of holding down
take
turbo.
our foot off the gas.
Exactly.
Because we're in such a hole. Right. They were even better shape, but that's kind of where Memphis is. Like Memphis is going to have to play 100 miles an hour all the way through, no rest games, no nothing, just to get there. And then what are they going to even have left? Could they get through the play-in and upset the Wolves or the Thunder in the first round? Sure. Yeah, I mean, maybe, right? It's, you're going in the floor. If you get to that point, that means Ja Morant was probably incredible. Desmond Bane is incredible. So you're feeling pretty good about, maybe we could win a round, but win 2-3 rounds, that's probably too much.
Yeah, it's asking a lot.
Yeah.
All right. Well, bottom line, the West is a mess. The East, we have an idea of what's real, what's not there.
We didn't talk about the bad teams. We'll
but this is about who's
spend
contenders.
Time on them at some point. This was just a check in on kind of who do we feel is real. So let me ask you, in the West, so we went over it in the East, right? We said Boston, Milwaukee, Philly. Who are your contenders in the West right now, December 19th, knowing this could change drastically?
Minnesota, OKC, I think could definitely make it through. Denver, I think would be the one I'm the most confident in. But if you told me Denver or the Field, I would bet the Field heavily.
Okay.
Because there's just so much talent in the West. The Kings the Kings are there. Dallas, so you want to pick against Luka and Kyrie?
Trevor's just going to name every team.
It's all of them. Like honestly, any of these teams could beat any of these teams. That's how ridiculous the Western Conference is. Anybody can beat anybody, and that's what I think it's going to make for a hellacious playoffs. It's going to be a lot of fun. Like it's hard to say, well, these 3 teams are the contenders. Because I could see the Clippers taking out the Thunder. I could see that going the other way. I could see any of those teams taking out the Nuggets if Jamal Murray's not red hot shooting the ball. Like there's real chances here for any of these teams to make a run. Phoenix, KD goes nuclear. Absolutely. They could beat somebody. Like there's so much parity here. It's hard to just knock anybody out altogether. Now, again, though, like I think part of it too is this. Going into the season, we would have said, okay, Minnesota, OKC, they were kind of bottom rung play-in teams last year. Maybe they're not quite ready to make that leap. No, they're 1-2.
Yeah.
So it's not even like those would have been kind of the teams you would gravitate towards. It's like, okay, maybe they're not quite ready, but now they're showing that they are. So it's kind of a cop-out. But man, it's all of them. Like I guess it's easier to say the teams I'm the least sold on, and that's probably the Pelicans, the Rockets, and I think the Warriors. I think they've been bad enough to where there's reason to worry. So I think those 3 I would put below, and I guess the Suns surely should be in that mix too because of the injuries and things like that. But everybody else I feel like could make a real run here.
So I'm going to give you my list. It's a little smaller than yours. Not by drastic amounts. Denver, 100% the team I feel best about in the West. I think I can't believe I'm doing this again, but it's the Clippers. Like everything has come together for them right now. They look really, really good. And obviously injuries can ruin anything for anybody. And maybe for some teams, we should feel more like they will ruin them for others. I still believe in the Lakers because the talent is there. There's definitely potential to make a trade. I'm not out on the Suns. I can't beat yet. Then after that, Minnesota and Dallas are probably the other 2 teams. Just Minnesota, the way they defend. Like I just feel like they're going to be really tough. And then Dallas is going to go into most series feeling like we have 2 of the best 3, 4, 5 guys on the floor against just about anybody because they have Luka and Kyrie. And we know oftentimes a playoff series comes down to, can you create offense at the end of a tight game?
Yep.
We know the Mavs can. So those are kind of my teams, right now. But, we're a third of the way through the season. in that there's that many teams and it's this much up in the air. That's awesome, right? Because that just means we're in for months of really good, fun basketball. And here's the thing, too. I wouldn't count out that the Wolves don't go on like a 4-game losing streak, and now all of a sudden they're right back to the pack in the West. Like that could certainly happen. They don't have the cachet where it's like, all right, they're at the top because that's where everybody thought they'd be. Like that's at some point that will look dumb, and we'll be like, all right, we should just there's 2 games left and they're 5 games up. I think I could count on them finishing first. Like at that point, obviously, but there's a point where it's like, all right, you buy in, but I'm not fully there yet. I guess it was interesting when you said you'd heavily bet the field on the Nuggets. It would probably be the right move just because if an injury happens, like Denver could fall apart.
Yeah.
I just if we could literally turn injuries off today. Someday that'll be a real feature we could do. But if we could, it'd be like I would pick Denver over everybody else.
That would push things in Denver's favor. I just look at Denver. I think about how healthy they were last season, especially for their postseason run. That's hard to do twice in a row. That's hard to do 3 times. So that's something that I like out with them. Yeah, you turn up if you just said everybody's totally healthy. That definitely pushes Denver up.
And we wish
yes, I hope everybody is totally. We get to see great basketball all the way throughout. That would be excellent. All right. Well, it was a fun day.
Yeah,
it's exciting. Make sure you guys are subscribing to the channel. If anybody who's new, subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to turn on notifications. And of course, find us over on Apple Podcasts, Spotify for the audio version of the show. Thanks,
we're going to have some fun this Friday, right? We'll do front office Friday, but we'll also probably do our annual Christmas show. We'll give out some gifts.
Right. That's right.
And that around taking questions from everybody. So we'll have a little bit of fun. We could tell you with all certainty there will not be a show next Monday. Mostly because there's games on all day, and Christmas and whatever, family time, whatever
that other stuff, the other stuff that's going, the peripheral stuff that's going on that day.
Be like paper on the floor and toys and stuff. I don't know, but
I'm so fortunate my wife does not watch this show.
Mine hears everything I say, but she's like, I already gave up on Christmas being anything but a basketball holiday years ago. So it's just where it is. But but we won't do a show that day, but we'll come back and catch everybody up later in the week.
All right. And so everybody make sure you do subscribe, and until next time, see ya and stay safe.